Everyone remembers their first music teacher. I could tell you all sorts of stories about my first music teachers, and I think we're really focused on just being fun and just getting people sort of the taste for music, really. Once you get that taste, it's like it's a lifelong addiction, you can't do without it.
Get Radio Breakfast with Rich Smith.
Of course, it is Get Radio's Band Week. We have been chatting to loads of phenomenal musicians and bands from across the county, and we're going to be continuing to do that all this week. And my next guest is Tom Dalby. Morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for joining us, and an extra special thank you to Tom, because we were organising this very last minute last night, and I was like, I've got some space at 9 o'clock. Are you all right to do that? And you were like, yeah, cool, no worries. So just a little bit of an extra thanks for being on the show from me there. Tom, tell us a little bit about you, and you're down in Didcot, and you're also a guitar teacher, I believe.
That's correct. Yeah. So I've been a musician as long as I can remember. Really, I can't really remember a time when I wasn't sort of playing guitar. I've been sort of doing my own music for a little while, but I've played in bands for years and years and years. I run a company called Oxfordshire Music School. We predominantly teach a lot of children in sort of small groups and get people into music. Really, it's fantastic. So that's taking up a lot of my time at the moment, which is great. So.
Oh, that must be amazing to kind of like, you're probably sort of the start of people's kind of, love affair with music and guitars and what have you. Like you said, you probably started at an extraordinarily young age and picking up a guitar and playing it and what have you, and to kind of pass that sort of knowledge on must be amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's great. I mean, everyone remembers their first music teacher. I could tell you all sorts of stories about my first music teachers, and I think we're really focused on just being fun and just getting people sort of the taste for music, really. Once you get that taste, it's like it's a lifelong addiction, you can't do without it. But it's fantastic. We've got a lot of students at the moment, sort of between 7 and 11 years old, and it's great seeing the faces. We put on a couple of shows a year. So we've just done one at the weekend at the Loose Cannon Brewery in Abingdon, and we had sort of 150 people there. Kids getting a first taste of a live music event and playing at the live music event as well. So it's amazing seeing the faces, and it's all about memories, really, I think, and stuff like that, especially at that sort of younger age. We do have some adults there as well who come up and perform, so we do a lot of adult work with adults as well. But yeah, for me, it's all about getting the kids into music and sort of raising the next generation, really, because if somebody doesn't do it, it'll die out, and it's a sad state of affairs.
No, you're absolutely right, and what an opportunity as well, like to having sort of gigs and being, like in the thick of it. That is absolutely phenomenal. Kind of, you sort of touched on it yourself, and you're sort of giving lots of kids their first memories of music teachers, of music, picking up a guitar and playing and what have you. What do you remember your first kind of memories and what you got into it, mate? Was it kind of influences from outside, your sort of favourite bands, parents kind of pushing you into a direction or something?
Oh yeah, my dad was a bit of a punk rocker, so he constantly had sort of old school punk rock tapes kicking about in the car when we were kids. And I think when I went to secondary school is when I first got really into it. A couple of the kids had started a guitar club there, and they were kind of playing, your Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit and Smoke on the Water, and those little easy sort of riffs that just get you hooked in. And I was amazed at how like these kids could do it, and so, some of them were kind of like I didn't consider that sort of they weren't my friends, if you know what I mean, but they could do it really, really easily. But God, if they can do it, I must be able to do it. So I managed to convince one of them to teach me a few songs, and then a couple of people dropped out, and I got into guitar lessons, and I've never really looked back, to be honest.
Amazing. That's brilliant. That's so. It's great to have that, like you say, that spark from so early. And I guess that's, you say you've got punk rock albums. That kind of like, we mentioned gritty. That's kind of stayed with you throughout your kind of music and what you've kind of done. Any reason for it, maybe?
Sorry, I lost that a little bit. The connection went there. I got as far as gritty.
Sorry. So you describe your music as kind of as gritty, and that's kind of stayed with you throughout your kind of musical career through the music that you've done. Well, is there any particular reason for that?
I've always liked music with something to say, really. I'm a big fan of artists like Bruce Springsteen, Jason Isbell, and then a lot of the older sort of punk artists. And I think a lot of music is quite throwaway these days. And if it hasn't got something to say, you know, the lyrics are quite about nothing, and I like to spend a bit of time on lyrics and really get the listener. You know, you listen to a Springsteen song and he drops you in the thick of it, and you feel like you're involved in whatever he's gone through or seen, and I like that about that sort of songwriting. I've never been too precious. I mean, maybe it's the punk rock influences, but I've never been too precious about sort of perfect guitar parts or everything sounding nice. So I'd rather it sounds like you've just been dropped in the middle of a live band and they're right in front of you playing 3 feet away, rather than a sort of overproduced sort of sound.
Yeah,
that's my sort of thing, anyway.
No, you're so right. We're chatting to people actually this week, and James from Pet Twin as well, who had that ethos as well. And I think that there's so many people want to be musicians, dare I say, or want to be, you know, people who kind of have sat there on perfection and done nothing with it. Whereas it's just a case of getting it out and just letting, you know, it's the way of improving. You know, it's kind of, you know, sending a track out and having that feedback and kind of going, oh, this is good. Oh, I could improve this. Actually, that does sound better there. All this kind of stuff. So more power to you. That's fantastic. Well, we're going to be playing The Power of a Loving Woman, which is a stunning title. Tell us a little bit about this song.
It's a song I wrote. It's one of those 15-minute sort of songs, to be honest. It's quite a standard sort of rock and roll chord progression, so the music part come quite easily. The lyrics are, luckily I'm blessed to have a very good relationship, and I've done for a long time. So a lot of the songwriting, much like my peers, Bruce Springsteen, has been from what you've seen rather than what you've gone through. So this was about a friend of mine who was just having a real tough relationship, and he didn't feel very valued. And eventually he sort of got out of that relationship, got blackbagged, as we like to call it, and kicked out the house. And then there was a nice young lady who come and sort of scooped him up from rock bottom, and that's what this song's all about, really. It's quite a simple concept of just, you know, that there is always something else out there if you're having a tough time. It's not always the end of everything. And yeah, it's a great sort of concept, I think, for a song. So.
Yeah, no, it's really lovely, and like you say, something with a little bit more meaning than the sort of pop stuff. Tom, where can we find out more about you? Maybe even more about the school that you're kind of running as well, with the guitar lessons as well, because I know that'll be like of such interest to people.
No, that's cool. Yeah. So to get hold of me, I'm on Facebook and Instagram and all that sort of stuff at Tom Dalby Music. To get hold of the school is oxfordshiremusicschool.co.uk. We're on all the socials and stuff like that. I also run a weekly open mic night at the Fox Inn in Steventon every Thursday night from 8:30. That's a really nice little event for people coming up through the music industry. And I do a little bit of work with the Cornermen Project, which is a project for men's mental health and suicide prevention based in South Morton, and that can be found. There's a Cornermen band raising awareness for it, and I do a lot of work with the band, which is really cool. And we can be found at thecornermen.org as well. So,
Tom, it sounds like you're doing tons of amazing, awesome, brilliant stuff, and it's been an absolute joy catching up with you this morning.
Thank you.
Please don't be a stranger, and definitely come back on and tell us all about your other projects as well, because they're absolutely fascinating. Brilliant stuff.
I will do. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. But for now, let's get your song on. That's the important bit, isn't it? That's important bit. Get a song on the radio. This is The Power of a Loving Woman.
Enjoy.